All right, today we're cracking open a playbook that's, well, it's been called a lot of things. Dangerous, devilish, but you know what? Also undeniably effective for over 500 years. We're talking about the philosophy of Niccolo Machiavelli, and we're going to see how his core ideas on power can be adapted into 5 principles of influence you can use in pretty much any conversation. You see, Machiavelli's point was pretty stark. He basically argued that history doesn't just remember the good guys, it remembers the people whose ideas actually left a mark on the world. And right there, that sets the stage for a totally different way of thinking about influence. It's not so much about being liked, it's about being effective. It's about being understood and ultimately followed. And that leads us to this really interesting question, doesn't it? Do you always have to be nice to be influential? I mean, for centuries, we've basically been told that being agreeable is the key to persuading people. Well, Machiavelli, he would have disagreed. Strongly. He believed that real influence comes from understanding how people actually tick, and then structuring your interactions to guide them toward a specific outcome. So if just being nice isn't the magic word, then what is? Okay, let's jump right into principle 1. We're calling it the choice illusion. This is a subtle, but wow, is it a powerful way to steer a conversation exactly where you want it to go, all without ever having to issue a command. Machiavelli wrote that a wise ruler gives people the feeling of freedom, but always keeps the final outcome in his own hands. So the goal here isn't to take away someone's choice, not at all. It's about designing the choices themselves so that no matter which path they pick, they end up at your desired destination. Think of yourself as the architect of their decision. And this slide just perfectly illustrates that shift in power. On the left, you've got a direct order. You should do this, which just invites people to resist. But on the right, you present 2 strategic options. You frame it so one path is clearly more desirable, or maybe it's just the lesser of 2 evils. The result? The other person feels like they're in control, like they made the decision, even though you already paved the road to the destination. Okay, let's move to the next tool and see how this all builds. Because, just giving someone a choice isn't always enough to make them actually do something. To really light a fire under them, you need to tap into one of the most powerful drivers of human behavior there is, the fear of loss. So the crucial point here is understanding the psychological trigger. We are wired this way. We can be pretty slow to move toward a reward, but man, we will sprint to avoid a loss. People often won't make a decision until they start to feel the pain of not deciding. Your job is to gently introduce that feeling. And here are 3 classic ways to build that urgency engine. First, scarcity, telling them the opportunity might disappear. Second, social proof, showing them other people are already benefiting, which creates that fear of being left behind. And third, a time limit, which just forces a decision. You noticed how all 3 of these tactics shift the focus from if I should act to when I must act. Now for an idea that might feel a little, well, counterintuitive. Machiavelli knew that what really matters isn't how perfect you are, but how you present yourself. True influence isn't about being flawless. It's about being perceived as honest. Think about it. We don't really trust people who seem too perfect, do we? We connect with people who feel real, who are relatable. So, by strategically admitting a small, manageable weakness, you actually build this little bridge of trust that makes your main argument even stronger. For example, by acknowledging the product's weight, you immediately disarm that potential objection. It makes you seem more honest. So when you follow that up by highlighting its unmatched durability, that claim is suddenly way more believable. You've literally turned a flaw into proof of a strength. It's a brilliant move. This brings us to what might be the most critical concept of all: controlling the narrative. Power, as Machiavelli understood it, isn't found in reality itself, but in the perception of reality. So the frame is the context. It's the angle from which the other person sees your words. And here's the deal. If you don't set the frame, they will. And then you'll be forced to play defense on their turf. An argument's strength often matters a whole lot less than the frame it's presented in. Just let this sink in for a second. Asking questions puts you in the driver's seat. It lets you guide the conversation. Answering and defending, that puts you in the passenger seat, just reacting to their direction. You should always aim to be the guide, never the defender. And look at the difference here. In the weak frame, you're just defending the price. But in the powerful frame, you refuse to even argue about price. Instead, you reframe the entire conversation around value. And suddenly, you're not talking about cost anymore. You're discussing investment, productivity, time saved, which is a much, much stronger position to be in. And now for our final principle, and it is perhaps the most counterintuitive of all. It's the art of gaining ground by strategically stepping back, something most of us really struggle to do in the heat of the moment. You should never rush to get your way. Desperation just signals weakness. The moment you show the other person that you don't need them as much as they might need you, the entire dynamic just shifts. Your calm confidence becomes your source of strength, and they often start to pursue you. Look at this dynamic. When you meet resistance with more force, you just create a stalemate. But when you calmly withdraw your offer, you completely subvert their expectations. This lack of desperation makes them pause and actually reconsider. Your withdrawal can trigger their fear of loss, pulling them towards you more effectively than any amount of pushing ever could. So there you have it. That's your Machiavellian toolkit for any conversation. You've got the choice illusion, the urgency engine, imperfect persuasion to build trust, framing to control the narrative, and of course, the power of retreat. Each one is a powerful tool on its own, but when you put them all together, they allow you to become the architect of the entire interaction. And listen, these tools aren't just about manipulation for its own sake. They're about understanding the deep underlying structure of human interaction. So the real question is, now that you can see the frame, what are you going to build with it?